We all know that creating a gun registry in the United States is against the law, but one state found a way to put you on a registry with your consent, by the way, and without you probably even knowing about it. And today, that's what we're going to look at. Because one state has figured out a way to actually put you on a gun registry and get your consent at the same time. Now, not only will I talk about what's going on in this state, obviously how it could spread to others, but also I want to focus on how you as a gun owner can actually protect yourself from being put on a registry you knew nothing about. I'd love to hear if you've ever had an issue in your state with something like this, or maybe even one of your banks, because unfortunately we all deal with these institutions and this is exactly how they're going to be putting you on a registry. If you've ever dealt with this on a personal level or have any opinions about what we talk about, leave that down below. Let's go ahead and jump right in. So the fantastic governor of New York has now figured out a way to put you on a registry through your credit card purchases. Now, this is not the first time this idea has been floated around, but now New York is going to another level with it. You know, what we're going to talk about in this video brings up another good reminder about preparedness. When politicians turn on you, new gun laws, new restrictions, sometimes people in the firearm industry will turn against you. Sometimes they'll roll to political pressure. But you have to take care of yourself and your family. And being prepared goes beyond guns and ammo. I know it's kind of consumes what we do is shooting, guns, ammo, the latest and greatest, but being prepared for somebody else using a firearm against you is equally as important. RMA actually just released their XRT plates. I'm so glad that they sponsored today's video because here's the problem. Whenever you're talking about any kind of armor, there's a gap because you have super lightweight armor, but it's only able to handle up to like handgun calibers. But then you have super heavy type of armor that's able to handle pretty much anything you throw at it, but again, it's super heavy and cumbersome and not realistic for people to wear on an everyday basis. These XRT plates are fantastic because they bridge the gap between level 3 and level 4. The 10 by 12 shooter's cut is 5.3 pounds. That's it. You save a minimum of 3 pounds, even more sometimes compared to level 4 armor. And the best part is they actually stop 7.62 by 54R, 7.62 by 39, 308, 556, and much more. So anything you're likely to encounter in an unfortunate situation, that we've covered plenty of those on this channel, it can actually stop those, and it's only 3/4 of an inch thick. And I don't know how they did it. I don't really care. I'm not asking questions, but they got it at $199. This is actually a price that a lot of people can afford as well. So I'm going to leave a link down below to the new RMA XRT plates. If you want to check them out, get them at that price, which is pretty freaking fantastic. Make sure that you click the link down below. Again, big thanks to those guys for the work and service that they're doing for gun owners, regular gun owners, and law enforcement alike. Now, not only do they want to use it to track your gun purchases, but also your ammunition purchases as well. Now, of course, they say all this in the name of public safety. So one of the specific things that the governor talked about is we want to be able to recognize when people are stockpiling ammo or are planning something nefarious. The problem is, you ask any gun owner, hey, how many rounds of ammo do you keep on hand? Almost all of them will say, well, I don't have nearly enough. But they could have thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds. Stockpiling ammunition is not a crime. Stockpiling guns is not a crime. Nor does that necessarily mean that you have some kind of nefarious intentions whenever you buy a bunch of guns. So essentially what they've done is weaponize the banking system. Now, you know as well as I do, anytime you look at your bank statement, you can see pretty much an itemized list of every single thing that you've purchased. But my question is, what is the limit, right? If they look at Headshot's bank and they see, oh, he bought 1,000 rounds this week and then 1,000 rounds the following month, is that too much? Is it 500 rounds gonna flag? 200 rounds? What is actually their definition of stockpiling? When we go to the range, it's nothing for us to blow through 500-600 rounds, sometimes 1,000 depending on how long we're there. if you're training a lot, I mean, there's some classes where you can't go to those classes unless you have a minimum of 1,000 rounds. So essentially, they're using the banking system that we almost all universally have in order to track everything you're doing and then putting some arbitrary number on it to say, hey, if this guy buys X amount of guns and or ammo, we need to be watching him. Now, in the very same press conference, they talked about tracking all kinds of criminal activity. So essentially that's what they're saying. Anybody that is a gun owner, that buys a lot of ammo, guns, etc., is a criminal in the making. So this brings up my very first point in ways to protect yourself, and that is, if you're going to use a bank, stay away from the ones that have actually been known to side with some of these states. So Citigroup, I know they just recently actually dropped a policy that they had which imposed severe restrictions on firearm dealers that they would work with. So basically, if you sold to anybody under 21 or certain accessories, stuff like that, they wouldn't do business with you. Bank of America, of course, is another one. And go with a bank that supports 2A rights. Some credit unions out there, local banks. There are some bigger banks too, I think, that just kind of remain neutral out of this. As long as you're not breaking the law, they don't really care. But if you don't want to use banks, cash. Cash is king. Those guys at the gun shop give me a hard time all the time because I never have cash on me, right? But this kind of, again, it's a learning experience for all of us, to be totally honest with you. So I am not exempt from this, and I can promise you that we can all take lessons from some of these articles and stories and restrictions that come up. And so if you're in a position to do that, using cash, of course, cannot be tracked. A lot of gun shops prefer this because then they don't have to pay processing fees. Now here's another one that may not be talked about as much, but buy local instead of buying online, right? Anytime you buy online, there's gonna be a record of that somewhere. That doesn't mean that every place you buy from online is keeping some kind of registry, but the chances of them being able to get that information are gonna be higher than if you just go to a local gun shop. I would say avoid loyalty programs too. So, you know, some of the bigger box stores, they'll have a program where you spend so much and then you can, you know, get a certain amount of money back or get it off of a purchase or whatever the case may be. Again, you're giving them more information. You never really know which one of these companies is going to turn next, which one is going to crumble to political pressure. So your favorite gun shop in 6 months or a year or whenever could turn their back on gun owners and approve something that you may not have thought would ever happen with this specific company. So I'd say stay away from loyalty programs. Financing firearms, right? There's a lot of places that now offer this service, but anytime you involve a bank, again, you're giving more information and a way for them to track. Doing things private where you can, where it's legal, of course, is another great way to keep the government and keep your state, local government out of your business when it comes to firearms. And of course, keeping pressure on your lawmakers. This is not okay for them to do that, and we need to let them know. Because all you're doing is opening the door and saying, okay, you know what? We could probably restrict the type of books this person buys. Maybe they subscribe to a podcast that we don't really like, so we need to keep an eye on them because we think they're really extreme. Maybe they subscribe to certain YouTube channels and we think those people are extreme, so we need to keep them on some type of watch list. Remember, it's all in the name of public safety. What about certain donations that you give to your local church? What if they could track those purchases? People would see that as an absolute scandal. But for some reason, when it comes to firearms, people don't look at it the same way. All they're doing is opening the door so surveillance becomes more and more acceptable. And that's when we gotta say, we will not accept this. Get them out of office. They decide that stuff like this is okay, there is no line they will not cross. There you go. There's my opinion, and there's some ways to protect yourself from policies just like this. Let me know if you've ever run into this. I think New York is the 3rd state to do this now officially. I could be wrong there, but I know there's been other states that have done this too. So whatever your opinion might be, leave that down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one, and as always, hold 'em down.